Welcome to the August 20th, 2024 board meeting, BCISD board meeting. We are located in the BCISD administration building in the boardroom. This meeting was posted according to open records, and we will, if you will all please and stand for the invocation and the pledge.
Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we ask your continued presence here with us tonight. We humbly ask that you surround us with your Holy Spirit as we seek to do your will and service to all of your children. We ask that you wash away any notion of self-service and open our hearts to selfless decision-making with one unified voice that is pleasing to you. We give you all the glory and thank you for your saving grace. We help us, Father, not to seek your powerful forgiveness without accompanying it with sincere heart and meaningful action. We ask your blessings on our students, families, staff, school, and community, and that your favor surrounds each of them like a shield all the days of their lives. We pray these things in Jesus Christ's most powerful name. Amen.
Amen. Stand and face the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
To the United States, one state, under God, one indivisible.
We are moving on to our celebration of excellence, which is one of our favorite parts. This evening, we get to honor some Bay City High School students that passed their APs.
We do. So I want to start by introducing our two AP teachers on campus. We have Jill Lowry and Sonia Ramos. Ms. Lowry teaches AP Chemistry, and Ms. Ramos teaches our AP Spanish Language and Culture course. So to share overall about our AP program, back in 2021, we had about a 13% passing rate for AP. Now, together between the two of them, we have an 82% passing rate for our AP exams. The students earn college credit at the cost of $40 to them up front. And then we have a few reimbursement checks still for a few of them who didn't pick them up. So they get reimbursed as part of our expansion program on campus with CCMR for the cost of the exam. So really the AP course is free of charge completely to them in earning their college credit. Tonight we will share that we had 37 students who participated, with 7 who passed their chemistry exam, and we had 24 who passed their Spanish exam. Of the 24 who passed Spanish, 5 of them earned a 5, which is the highest you can make. 10 of them earned a 4, and then the rest that passed earned a 3, which is what you need for college credit. And chemistry is hard, y'all, really hard. So we are holding at all of the students who passed and also earn a 3 to earn the college credit. So they will be taking with them to college both science and language credits. And we offer this as an AP course because we don't have dual credit in these 2 subjects on our campus. But our staff has worked hard to get trained to be able to support them. So Ms. Lowry is going to start with introducing the students who passed their AP chemistry test.
All right, so these are some of my very favorite people. I have them in regular or honors chemistry when they're sophomores, and then I love to have them again. So first one, Juan Barrera. Danielle Chavez. Santiago Gonzalez. Amaris, is Amaris here? Oh, Amaris, I'm sorry. Did you see Amaris? Gabriela Rocha. Victoria Sleeper. I have one finally, in this, I have Danielle is going to college, which I'm wishing her good luck, even though it's University of Texas.
So we start with the joint culture. Step forward, the board's gonna get behind you. Or beside.
Jill.
Oh.
Gonna take a few.
So then Ms. Ramos will introduce the students who passed their Spanish language test.
Just to say a few words, it's always an honor and privilege to have AP students, especially this past year was a little special for me because of, some personal reasons, so y'all were with me during that time and yet I'm still kids. So that's pretty awesome. So Juan Barrera. Manuel Coronel Rondon, he's here. She's not here either, she's driving. Estrada's not here. Diana Hernandez. Rebecca Ledesma Rubio. Giovanni Lopez. Ashley Martinez. Nana Mendoza. Julio Paniagua Sánchez. Andrea Pérez. Carmen Ramírez. Kevin Ramírez. Rivera Rascón. Adrián Rosas Robles. José Rosas. María Rubio. Luis. Anthony Vargas Ramírez. Yarial. people in the back, short people in the front.
Okay, thank you. Great job, students. That is a big accomplishment, and great job, teachers, because that goes to show that what you're doing in the classroom is truly educating kids at a level that they're able to do something that not very many students are able to. So thank you for the two of you. I appreciate it. Moving on to our next item of business, good news. Does anybody have anything good that they've seen since we met in July?
I'll start off, I know someone's gonna cover the rally yesterday, so I'll talk about the prayer rally that was put on by local pastors in the community. My favorite part of prayer rally, and Jill and I got to pray over the leadership, and Chief Cunningham got to pray over law enforcement, and teachers prayed over teachers, but students prayed over students. So my favorite part was watching students voluntarily walk to the center of the room and then pray over their fellow students. And it was really heartwarming, and I could sit there and listen to that prayer. So it's great event put on. I hope to see more people there next year. So watch for your Facebook.
I'll say, okay. Just being able to be on campuses between the start of the school year before the kids came to the kids actually showing up, the amount of work, just the incredible things happening, the team building, the amount of work that went into y'all getting the campuses ready and this getting it ready for students. I truly appreciate it. And I think everyone did a fantastic job, went above and beyond like you always do. So thank you to all staff for doing what you did to make the school year start so well.
Really, it's one of my favorite parts of the year is at the very beginning where we get to walk, we all meet the teachers and everything. There's all this excitement and everything in the air. And a lot of times throughout the school year, you can kind of get like a little bit of tunnel vision on like, these are the teachers that you contact the most or that you see the most often or whatever. But on Meet the Teacher Night, everybody's outside their classes, and just being able to see how many amazing teachers this district has and how many of them are out there just truly just like caring about the kids and having such a great attitude after. I know they've had such a long week and a half or whatever, coming back and setting everything up, and just being able to see all of them out there and see the many blessings that we have as a district, have so many great people. It's always a great day.
Well, just speaking of the excitement too, this was probably my fifth or maybe sixth convocation to go to at the beginning of the year, and I mean it was, I would say by far the most excitement, hyped up, and not to bash any other principals, but Miss Cummings brought her A game to the convocation, and she has set the bar pretty high for next year.
It's pretty amazing. For those that did not, they suspended themselves from, what are those called? What are those straps? Straps that were floated in the air. As the curtains opened, it was incredible. It was awesome. But everybody did a great job, but that was definitely the cherry on top. Anything else?
Lots of positive momentum. Yesterday we had a community pep rally, and so that was very exciting to see so many people come together. And Tony, I thought about for a second breaking into some LSG. I did not do that, but we're really excited for the great turnout. Saw a lot of kids having a great time, a lot of families coming together. It was really special. And thank you to everyone, athletic department, communications, everyone who works on that project. And thank you, as you said, Ms. Westmoreland, the whole team for getting the year up and running. It's never easy. So congratulations on that as well.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm excited to see that there's a number of transfers coming in, and it ain't just because of Stacy, it's what y'all are doing to make it better here for than one of them. Get better, so that's pretty exciting.
Incredible. Our enrollment's up by 52 from last year, so it goes to show the work that is happening at the school level. So thank y'all. All right, if no one has anything else, we're gonna move straight through audience with patrons. We do not have any. So we are going to go through LSG. Hello, sir. How are you? Welcome.
Good to be here.
Good to see you this evening. Yeah, so y'all are welcome to stay. Please do not feel like you have to stay, but you're welcome to stay and hear what is happening. This is good tonight. Our report is going to be about the high school students and what's going on at the high school, but you're welcome to leave if you would like to leave as well. So don't feel obligated to stay. We would love to hear you, let you hear all this great information because it's very exciting, but we understand you have things going on as well.
Good. So, first of all, I just want to say, from my experience,
They're on the page. Yeah.
Thank y'all for coming.
congratulations.
Yeah, it's more than me. It's not my program, but I'm proud of it. Yes, I am.
So, this was really amazing to see these students get recognized. Just from my own experience, I was a high school principal for 12 years. I know the bar is very high to earn accredited AP. Getting dual credit, dual college credit is great, but passing that AP test is the most rigorous thing we offer, I think, in secondary school. So hats off to those teachers and those kids for doing that work and getting that credit. So that's good. So just looking back to last month, we had a good meeting. It was held on the 16th of July. We had 85 minutes, 50 of those minutes were spent on student outcomes for 58.82%. We had 6 members present, 1 absent for 85.71%. 10 items on the consent agenda, none were removed, and we had no other items I can tell were actually for deliberation other than the consent. So we had 2 discussed goals, both were on target, 6 goal progress measures discussed. So that was last month, and it was excellent. So let's see. The next thing that we're going to look at tonight is our monitoring report for goal 3. And that's college, career, and military readiness. So we have a update on last year, and we'll talk just a little bit about next year as well. So let me see if I can take that up.
We're gonna use that one.
Okay.
This is just a little explanation of how you see there. Perfect. So our goal 3 last year, we specifically started out 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 for each of our grade levels as we were identifying growth along the way for graduating classes. A little bit different as you remember when we established this goal. I want to start by saying that when we were looking at this, we were just so disappointed because the senior class started at only 37% of them college and career ready. And they have a lot of opportunities at Bay City High School. So we started asking ourselves, what can we do to make sure that we have more of them on track and we're not trying to like drag them along the way in their senior year when they really just want to graduate and then check out second semester anyway. So in doing this, we worked really hard with our CCMR team, our counselors, as well as our dual credit teachers. In addition to that, some of our on-level teachers that really we were targeting specifically algebra and geometry classes, as well as our English 3 classes to get more students ready. And we are excited to share that now we will be starting with a class that is 58% ready for college instead of 37. So really exciting progress that we made. What you see is just a little breakdown about how we got there. So the first piece, of course, to share is that each of our early college cohorts do have to take the TSI because they start their college coursework in the 9th grade year. So we have the same number of students that are in the cohort, but we have more competing to get in that cohort. So we've really built up that program and the opportunity for you to start and take college classes. And even though many of them are not selected, they start that process and they begin enrolling in their dual credit courses in the freshman year. You don't always see that data come to fruition because when they have to earn the college credit, it takes for them to earn multiple courses for it to count on our CCMR score. So we don't always get that right away, but in addition to that, more students kind of latch onto the idea, oh, those kids are in college classes, so I want to be in college classes too. And so as we targeted our sophomore and junior classes, we're saying, hey, next year you can take a college class. So more of them jumped on board with that. So number 2, I know I kind of skipped the IBCs, but I'll come back to that. Number 2 talks about specifically how we offer TSI on our campus. And just to remind everybody, and some people who might not know, we are a TSI testing center. So in the past, whereas students would have to go to a college campus to take that exam, we can offer it ongoing on our campus as we are available to schedule that with all the other things that are going on. So we actually had multiple sessions during the school year where we pulled groups of algebra students, groups of geometry students, and particularly our English 3 students to try to get them tested. In addition to that, we did 7 Saturdays with TSI testing, and we did 10 sessions this past summer. That data is also rolled in to see the kids who do it in the summer, they really want an off period, and we won't let them have off periods unless they are college ready. So it's kind of an incentive because then otherwise they do have to do the alternate college and career readiness expectations. Through College Board, we also did an SAT day, and we offered that in the 2nd semester. We have students who have done the advanced academics, and they start that in junior high if they take algebra in the 8th grade. So by the time they get to high school, they have to meet the advanced academic requirements, and some of them don't go on their own to take the SAT because it's required a Saturday, and then they have to, work up to the idea that they're going to do, a little review in preparation for it. So we also worked with some of our AVID teachers and some of our dual credit teachers, really kind of encouraging them, even though they're already in a dual class, why should you take the SAT, and just promoting those opportunities. We will have some highlights to share of our students who made some of those academic successes and were actually reported nationwide, but we don't have all of that kind of put up in for Miss English yet, but we will have some really great things to share about the students who were identified because of their results on this test. Of course, as you are familiar, we do have dual credit and we expanded our program. So this year we will have additional students who are in dual credit courses with additional teachers. Because our dual credit program has grown, we needed additional staff. So we're ready. We're ready to take on probably even a couple more cohorts if we had the funds to provide it for early college. Now that we have additional English and additional math teachers, and that is of course the basic requirements that they take. We have Ms. Morales is here as well. She's one of our elective teachers that teaches a dual course. And so we've also expanded the electives that we teach, so they're no longer just taking an online class, but they have a face-to-face teacher that works for Bay City High School and really cares about their outcomes. So we have a significant number of students who now are recorded on CCMR because they earn their total 9 hours of credit in their English and their math. And then we did Ed Ready, which I think I shared in a couple board meetings back last spring. We were working with Mr. Townsend and our federal programs coordinator to keep that going. It is an alternative. We do have some students academically don't perform at that higher level. Some of them are in our industry-based courses. And so we want to still get them the college and career readiness expectation. We want to provide them with that opportunity in case they want to go to a trade school and still need to perform academically. So it reviews their English and their math skills. We embed that into their English 4 and to their college readiness math class. And so all of our seniors that had not passed a TSI or made the exam or dual credit course went through the Ed Ready program to earn those college and career readiness expectations as well. And then to go back to IBCs, and the reason I saved it is because they don't all count yet. But we did have 9 programs of study that did industry-based certifications in the spring. And some of them don't count until they complete this year's level 2 industry-based course. So we have to wait to count them, but there are about, I would say there's about 40 to 50 that are just waiting to count an additional point, and that's between our freshmen and sophomore students. So it's really exciting to know that even though our sophomore number is only 21, started at 21, and it's now, it looks like, oh, well, you know, they might only be, 14, but when you think about it, if they roll over to the year after, there's some that are there that have it, that would count if they had the level 2 course. And they're in that course now because our counselors made sure that they were. So we're keeping them in that program of study to help them earn that credit. To speak to our seniors just a little bit, one of the other things to share, of course, is that, like I said, second semester is challenging for them. So Tony said we were going to talk a little bit about the upcoming goals and our plans for next year. You're going to notice that if you look at that data, that we really already kind of exceeded where we said we were going to be. So we're going to change the game up just a little bit, and we're working in the direction of trying to get more of the seniors there by the semester instead of by the end of the year. So you'll see back at semester, we were at 73%. That was good, it really was. Some of them were really just lagging behind with the Ed Ready, and some of them were also upperclassmen that their IBC would count, but they hadn't done the certification yet. So we're going to work really hard this year to try to get closer to our goal at this semester sooner, so that we can give a little bit of stress relief maybe to some of our senior level teachers that are struggling and thinking about this kids waiting till the last minute. In addition to that, we have already begun some plans for TSI testing to start in the first semester as well, so the underclassmen have that opportunity. We do all of our scheduling really in January for the most part. And so to know how many of those students are actually meeting those TSI requirements to be eligible to be in dual classes will really help us with our scheduling. Ms. DeLisa right now has an algebra class in first period that has 29 students in college algebra. It's exciting, but it's something to think about that some of those students had not met their requirements to get in that course at the time we did the schedule. So when we built the schedule, it put a little bit of a strain on where the sections are in the day and some other things that may conflict. We'll initially open up some other sections. We have a 3rd section of college algebra this year, but we really need a 4th. And had we known that that many students were going to meet those requirements soon enough to be able to be in there, then we would be able to make some plans for that. Really exciting to share though also that whereas in the years past, we only had like maybe 3 or 4 kids that wanted to take calculus, now that we have a face-to-face instructor, Coach Ferrani teaching it, we have 12 students that are enrolled in college calculus and statistics. And so really exciting to see that some of that will also happen because they'll get an additional credit. And some of those are students that he recruited by going to some of the other math classes and saying, no, you really you can do this. Don't be afraid of it. So we're really excited about that progress. Any questions or comments, things that I can share related to other things?
From January 24 to May 24, how do we go down?
Very good question. So some of our data reporting, when we looked at we were giving you data because it doesn't update in the system until credits are verified for the semester. So whereas in January, we came in a meeting that we had not run the first semester data, we had it in our own calculations based on the certifications, based on kids that we had projected to be successful. When it rolls into the system and it actually counts towards that, some of them it won't count yet because they don't have the full 9 hours. And so it held back on them and didn't count until the end of the second semester. Good question.
If a kid really classified to be in it, then there's not a way to fall out.
Right. But it may, like, we might have said he's there, but the system didn't say he was there yet, so when we reported the data to you, based on what the system was reported, it was more like 72%. The other thing is we do have some kids that change grade levels at semester, and so they finally get promoted up their grade level. And we may have had a few other kids calculated into the overall graduation number of students, and so then the percentage may go down a little bit because we added, let's say we added 10 kids that became from juniors to seniors in the second semester, and it changed the calculation.
The cohort of kids that you're pitching in junior high, those, you said some of them don't make it. So if they don't make like the selected cohort, they can still do everything that those kids are doing, right?
Yes, so only 15 are picked in the lottery and selected, although many more of them sort of attempt, they fill out their application, they work on their testing, so they try to meet all the requirements, because the more requirements they meet, the more chances they get in the lottery, and that's not our system, that's the early college system that's created. But when they don't make it, many of them are already ready. You know, they've already passed all their classes, their college entry exams, and they're ready to go. And their parents, or some of them are invested, so it's kind of a bonus if you get in, because it's free of charge, but then when you get in, if you're able to pay for that, you can do your coursework. Plus, in addition to that, many of our students apply for the many organizations in our community that support dual credit scholarships. And so they're able to still come along for the ride and join them. We definitely have a number of our service organizations and our foundation that contribute to the funding for that.
You said, you made a comment that you could have multiple, excuse me, a year. What, Dr. Mackey may have to remind me, but where is that funded through?
The early college high school is funded
Locally, okay. And what is the outcome? Do you know?
The outcome,
No, the average cost.
The average cost.
do you want me to tell you how much textbooks cost?
Oh, I know, okay.
It's very expensive, yes. I will say though that I write the grant every year to the Educational Foundation, so we get $5,000 from the Educational Foundation that contributes. And really the cost, if you think about a student earning an associate's degree, so the cost over the course of 4 years is an associate's degree times 15 students that we are paying for as a district. Yeah, it's pretty
So
costly.
that's just the cohort.
That's
But
just the
many more
cohort.
can graduate from Wharton Junior if their
Yes.
parents are paying
Oh,
for it.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can, I mean,
Our two original.
the two weren't in the cohort.
Yes, the two original associate's degree students were not part of early college. Anybody can earn an associate's degree, and anybody can also get the core complete
Yes.
if they complete the coursework. Many of Magda's students, even in her theater course, are just students who have opted to do the core complete and they need an additional elective, and they're in that course. We have, like I said, 3 sections of college algebra, so think about 25 students in each section, so we have about 75 students in college algebra, but only the juniors are in the early college cohort, so only 15 of them are in the early college cohort.
You explain what core complete is.
Yes.
Those that don't know what it is.
So core complete is just a foundational coursework that's required to kind of go towards an associate's degree, and some students choose that, to be honest, because of their extracurricular activities. If they go through the entire associate's degree, they do lose out on some of their extra periods in the instructional day. We have many of our students who are athletes, aristocrats, cheerleaders, band, choir, and they choose to maybe forego the full associate's degree and just do the core complete. And really, they're on track, probably some of them only a semester or 2 short of really having a full associate's.
And that's an incredibly wise choice in many instances, because if you're in a certain pathway and you earn an associate's and maybe you're, I was talking to somebody earlier about, engineering at Texas A&M, and they don't take a lot of transfer credits. Right. So that would be a specific decision that you make not to do that. So I would imagine a significant number purposefully choose not to, because it also impacts your financial aid. Because you're a transfer student versus a new student. And that's based on numbers, and also the core complete, in my opinion, is super important. because those are the agreed upon coursework that all schools in Texas agree on. And our teachers need, I can tell you from personal experience, our parents need to know that when they are enrolling their children, that sometimes the core complete will kind of get pushed over, and we need to insist and say, oh, this is core complete. It may be an elective, but thou shalt accept the core complete. And that's a big one. I think communicating to parents is important, because I've seen it firsthand to where they'll say, well, this doesn't count. Well, core complete does count. It's guaranteed.
And to be honest, the coursework that we work together with WCJC to put together, really, the extra courses that are outside of the core complete went to kind of sustain some of the programs on our campus that are already successful, like fine arts. So we have an elective in music and also in theater, but there are other electives that students could choose if they so wanted. So if they were really like a student who wanted to go to field of nursing, it might be with them to take a course that is along that lines instead of something like the fine arts credit that's really not going to transfer for them. Questions?
Any other questions?
Just SAT school day testing,
Yes,
that's in the spring on a Saturday.
we do have it in the spring. It's on during the school day, during the instructional day.
Okay.
We offer other ones on our campus on Saturdays so they can come locally.
That's the one you give the kids the vouchers to?
We do the vouchers,
Okay.
but then the school day is also one we pay for all students to go participate in it. Yes, they can get vouchers for us for any fall or spring semester. You were gonna ask questions, you were-
Do we have MOU worked out with UH Victoria also? Or
We no longer have an MOU with UH Victoria. We did that at one time because we were having a hard time getting them to buy into some of the things that we were trying to do at work. And so we kind of stood our ground to be able to offer some courses that they were putting their foot in the ground over, saying, nah, we really don't think that your instructor meets those qualifications. When UHB found out that they would concede, then UHB backed up because they have a partnership. And really, we are in the WCJC area. So we pushed one semester through, and then WCJC followed through with our expectations, and we were able to do all of our courses with them. It's really important for us to be able to do that so that students can actually get an associate's degree deferred, because how long it takes to finalize scores at the end of a semester. We did have a struggle to be able to match those classes up and be able to, we want to on graduation day, be able to say, yes, you had an associate's degree. And this year, we actually got associate's degree before they got their high school diploma. That would not have been the case if we had sustained the crossover, but UHB and WCJC have a very good working relationship. And when WCJC agreed to let us continue biology in the way that we wanted to, then they backed up and allowed us to continue. So it was contention over biology and government, to be honest, where we were having a hard time. And like I said, we worked really hard to try to get face-to-face instructors. They were our people with master's degrees. And we put our foot down to say, no, our people are going to be our teachers instead of some online person that is not really going to support our kids.
And I think that's important, and that's exactly what I was gonna bring up, and you all, we're about to publish our year in review again that we do, and we celebrate the great things that are so unique. And I'll just put a challenge out there. Look for an enrollment of 3,400 students in a district anywhere in Texas, and show me 13 adjunct professors on that staff at a high school. 13 adjunct professors. I know there's 2 proctors as well, but as you said, that's master's level work in a content area that is very hard and very difficult to get. It's hard enough to find teachers, but that's going to be I'm sorry, and Magda, I know you were pulled into post for that. I'm sorry I was on y'all as the school year was starting, but that is very special.
The first day you asked, we were dressed up in circuit attire, so we couldn't do that.
No.
But it was very meaningful for all of them, including our proctors as well, because they really felt like that we were placing a lot of value on the work that they put into the program. Not a lot gets said about the proctors, but they actually do the coursework as well so that they can follow along with the kids, because Wharton changes the online instructor for us almost every semester. So at least they work hard enough to try to know the projects and the assignments so that they can support our students. And the courses that we have remaining for that is just learning frameworks and speech. And then some of our students also need, we offer economics, although for the associate's degree, they get both governments to count for their associate's degree. We offer economics on our campus, and it is also an online course. So there's the only 3 remaining courses that are dual on our campus that are online. The rest of them are face-to-face with people just like Magda that are already our staff members. And that's why we stayed with WCAC, because they would employ all of them. They worked with us with the master's cohort, knowing they're going to be paying an additional stipend to the extra employees that are going to be serving in that role. So, you know, we said though, we're going to give you the clientele. We're going to have that many kids enrolled in the class, but our master schedule will not afford. We have maxed out English. We have one teacher that does dual English all day, and now we have 2 additional ones that do it part-time. And then in the math department, we have 3 that split up now the math pieces, and then of course we have our biology, we have our fine arts and music, and then we have government with Ms. Herrera. So what's really nice is that they worked with us to allow us, and even though there were a few hoops to jump through, Mr. Townsend, thank you, he was like ready on the edge to like go to bat for us when it takes a while to go through their HR department too, but we're like, school starts. Like we need confirmation that our newest instructors are ready to go. So.
Great. Are there any other questions? Thank you for what you're doing
Thank
at
y'all.
the high school.
So, superintendent constraints. We're gonna look at 1 and 3, and this is in your folder. So we'll start by looking at 3 first. And the superintendent shall not allow the teacher retention rate to increase. And 10-year average, when we met between the last board meeting and now, we planned for next year. We did look at some data, and over the last 10 years, the retention rate has been 77.75%. That's the average. This year, the retention rate is 83.55%. So while it did not quite meet the superintendent constraint progress measure by 85%, you know, we're trying to get there by August 28th. That's a remarkable change.
I think it's worth noting as a team, we had our principals there, that this is straight retention, regardless of reason. We got to retain staff no matter what. If it's for different reasons, we have to mitigate those reasons. What the reason is that we don't have teachers returning, that will be in this piece. So that's a new piece. We had a different formula. So this is statement, and I also put some data at your place on each campus as well as the district, but we're talking about district retention today, and so I'm very comfortable with the goal, but I did want to mention that it's straight retention. We have to keep our folks by all means necessary through training, support, etc.
If you notice on superintendent constraint number 1, this is where we would not fail to participate in a board team building activity that was attended by 100%. We didn't quite make that, so we'll try to work on that next year as well. And that was one of the board constraints as well, but we're not going to be covering board constraints tonight. So any questions about the superintendent constraint?
I think we shouldn't fail to mention a gigantic initiative, which is in constraint 2 attendance. We're going to be very purposeful. The campus sent forward this week their plans on communicating new expectations for attendance. 90% rule, which is state law, all that is being on our social media, our handbooks. I've heard from different of you some very creative ways that you're getting that out. Your weekly newsletters have that in there. Attendance is a big deal. We're very proud of the results of CCMR and life-ready graduates, but it's very important that our students are in school, and state law says it's a minimum of 90%. You must, by state law, you must be in school 90% of the days, or you risk losing credit for your exam. So you've got, not for your exam, for your course. So let's say you've got a 99 average, but your attendance rate is 50. You're probably going to lose credit for the year. So you did a great job, but the state law says you have to be in school. And so we can't under communicate that, but it's a gigantic initiative of students being participant in class. If you want to do the extracurricular stuff, you need to stay minimum. At minimum is 90%.
And I don't know how much education news you keep up with around the state, but everybody's focused on this right now. So we do see some districts are actually improving quite a bit in the national focus efforts like y'all are doing. So congratulations on that. So Dr. Mack, could you discuss just for a minute, we had on the agenda tonight an accountability update. So can you kind of discuss from the state view where we are with accountability rating?
Yes, sir, and I definitely wanted to mention that before we closed LSG. This is important. You all may have heard me before say preliminary scores are released through school website, through media, et cetera. That is not a good practice. The reason that is not a good practice is because what just happened in the 11th hour is that there was once again a lawsuit against the Commissioner of Education to withhold the accountability ratings. And Chris, do you want to add anything to it? I have a little more, but is there anything specific in holding off that you want to share? I know you're all things curriculum.
Right. Well, one of the biggest things is that, you know, right now they've got a restraining order on that, and until the minimum on 8/26. Releasing any type of estimate, because we can come up with some type of estimate, would only undermine that lawsuit. And so we don't want to participate or not participate in that. So that's a really important point to make.
Thank you for that, because sometimes people say, well, you know, so-and-so's released theirs. This is now a court order on the last day prior to release, and that is why we do it the way we do it, because it's the right way to do it, just in case something like this happens, and we thought it would happen 2 years in a row. But nonetheless, I just wanted everyone to know that that is why you don't send stuff out early. As it is, the accountability manuals, and part of the lawsuit is essentially that you find out how you're going to be evaluated pretty much after the scores are done. And good progress monitoring, as we see with LSG, is tell us in advance, and that's just part of good practice. If you're in any other industry where you're measuring success, you set your goals ahead of time, and hopefully we can get there. But we'll respect this order and wait till we do more. We will do a report, though, Chris. I don't know if you want to mention about that. We will have a report on kind of like we did last year. We had to release just the scores, not accountability rating. But you got that coming up, correct?
Well, we did report on the scores, and then when and if that rating does come out, I'm prepared with a report for that as well.
So no, on that, were the composite score comparisons in that one?
Yes.
They were.
Yes.
Okay.
The raw scores.
I thought we had shared composite. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't shared the raw score, so it's a very small thing. Maybe even something that you can, because it's just a linear progression on what has not changed with raw scores. It's only 3 components. And so that may be even something that you can share with them in the newsletter.
So that was the part I misspoke, the raw score
Yes,
comparison. I don't think, I haven't shared it yet, and I didn't think we had. So I will share that either in a board newsletter or we can report it here.
90% attendance. That's nice. Sorry, it's excused. It's just total.
It's the state law, and I can give you examples on the 90% attendance, and this is a good discussion. On the 90% attendance, the state literally does not care why you are there. And so I can give you examples, and this is important, and I know we're streaming. This is anytime we can get this out there, it's important. A good scenario there is my child has a dentist appointment in the afternoon. So if you just take that child to the dentist appointment and the child never comes to school, then that counts against the 90% rule. You went to the dentist, it's an excused absence, but it counts by state law, not our law, by state law, that counts against the 90% rule. However, If you attend one period a day, come in the morning, check out to go to that same dentist appointment, you're present. That's just state law. And that's one that really gets me. And every time I hear a question like that, I'm like, it is so tricky sometimes. Counter that with, let's say, heaven forbid, a child is hospitalized for a week. That whole week counts against the child. That's just, that's hard to believe. However, this is super important. This is something new, right? Well, this is a new initiative, but with the 90% attendance requirement, with state law, there's also a committee that can rule on extenuating circumstances. So they definitely look at that. And pretty much, I would say, every time that is a mitigating variable that they have actually the principal has the first line of authority. The principal doesn't, by law, doesn't have to technically go to anyone if their attendance rate, I believe, is above 70%. If it's below 70%, then they are required to bring the whole committee in and do an intervention plan. And so again, if you have that situation, it's very important in this new approach to attendance. We have a situation where there's extenuating circumstances. We will have in place what's already in place with state law, the attendance review committee that can override that. Of course, anything outside that would be a part of the grievance process. But I think we have a good holding to make sure we don't harm anyone with extenuating circumstances. That is huge. And the principals, I'm sure many of you that run your attendance committee, this is something we've done for many, many years. And I like that there's that safety net. It's not just too bad, so sad. They can appeal to the attendance committee as part of the state law that's already in place.
So they get credit back.
So like, yes, sir.
Like Keith was out a week for concussion last year.
Yes.
You can get credit back for that.
Yes, and that's about an average of 10 absences per semester, typically, depending on the number of instructional days. But I usually tell folks about 10 absences per semester. And so that's what you've got to play with before you, and I don't even like to use the term play with, you need to be here every day. But the most important thing is that's a pretty substantial safeguard when you think about it. There's due process through the attendance committee. We're looking at 10 absences per semester, which is too much. And but that is the state law, and transparency is a big part of it. Exactly right.
That's not a change. That's been in place for years. Like that.
Yeah.
It's just that coming back off of COVID, everybody's had a difficult time. I'm really glad to hear that your enrollment is up. That is fantastic news. And the transfers would be great to the point where you got a waiting list for transfers. That's the future. That's what's coming. Thank you for that explanation, Dr. Mack. The one thing I wanted to share with you before we move on is a scouting report for next month. So we met in between the two board meetings in July, and now we've met as a leadership team, and we looked at all of our LSG GPMs. We looked at the monitoring calendar and looked at how we could, it's kind of like a football team going into the locker room at halftime. The goal is still the same, you know. The goals, you own the goals, those haven't changed a bit, but we're not even recommending any changes. But the team wants to make some changes to the goal progress measures to adjust to try to achieve those goals as set out by the board. And so what we're going to bring you next month, we have no monitoring to do it all next month in September. It's kind of like we did last September. We're going to bring you a copy of your constraints, your superintendent constraints. We'll bring you a copy of the board constraints, a copy of the monitoring calendar, and a copy of the new monitoring report, but it just won't have any data because we won't start monitoring until October by the student calendar. So what we'll do is we're going to go over it in detail, and we're going to cover, the adjustments that are being recommended to you. Also, it's going to give you an opportunity to look at your constraints. Are there any board constraints that you would like to add or change? Give you some time to think about that. You'll get your board book well in advance, and these documents will be so you'll be able to take a look at it, over your desk. Same thing with the superintendent constraints. There may be some that you want to adjust. There may be some that you want to delete or something you want to add. So at that meeting in September, that'll be our opportunity And you'll get to hear, if you have questions about the goal progress measures and where we stand with the 12 right now, you'll have the principals here to answer those questions for you. Because they're the ones who weigh in heavily on what they feel like will help them to achieve your goal, which is what this is all about. So I'm just gonna, I don't have copies of this in your folder yet. In fact, Mary Lynn begged me for a copy of it. She's the only one that's gotten a copy so far of this template. This is the template that we developed at our last meeting. And so you'll notice, and it's very similar, that the assessments really aren't changing. The assessments that they're using midterm, midway for their GPMs. But you'll notice what they have on, like for instance, on 1.1, it'll say BOY. Well, that's our baseline, is the beginning of the year assessment. That's where that's what they're gonna set for the baseline. Now, the targets, the annual targets, they do not really feel like they're gonna change those at this point. We may look at it when they get their beginning of the year assessments and make some adjustments, but likely not. Likely those annual targets are gonna remain the same, and that will help us move toward our goal. So you're gonna see throughout this whole template, when you get it, if we have those beginning of the year assessments ready, and they can put them in the template before the September meeting, great. If not, then they'll come in October or November, whenever we have the data, and they can do it comfortably without, burning the midnight oil to get it done. And so, all of them, I could go through them all, but I don't think we need to do that. You're just gonna notice it's gonna say beginning of the year and then target.
Are the M-class ones the ones where it's just like subject and then another subject, and then for these cumulative knowledge of the subject?
Classes was over time.
Oh, yeah. So I'm just wondering I think there's a couple at TD Homes, what were those called? CDAs. Those are just spot checks of that. And those don't really, that could go, I'll just use simple numbers. That could go 5, 4, 3, 7, 9, 10, 1, 2. And we're trying to pick May as a measure date. We're only using May's CDA, and that tells me nothing. It just tells me how they did in May, but it doesn't tell me how they're doing throughout the year. Can we get like a cumulative average of all the CBAs that were taken all the way up until May? And then that's May's data? I think that would be more representative of how the students are doing and tell us more than guessing, how they did in January. They did awesome, but we didn't measure in January. We did that one in May.
And I can't remember, Dr. Mack, I can't remember if we said we were gonna use the interim STAR exams, interim 1 and interim 2.
Those, we're not gonna use those. We're not for this just yet. As you know, there's a lot to be developed there. There's some good there, but there's a lot to be developed in interims. And I think that's coming from the state, and hardcore requirements are coming.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a way to show progress. But are you understanding what he's asking?
Yes.
So that when we meet again and do our meeting for September, maybe we can work that in and make sure that plan can be executed without putting a big burden on the principals. Because that's what we always try to think about. How can we do this without?
Or alternatively, the percentage of students who scored at a certain level of the CBA increased or something, because,
to show progress.
Yeah, and the important piece there is you definitely want to use CBA, however you use it, and not the BOY, MOY, and EOI is designed for that acquisition of skills. Quality curriculum work, which is curriculum 101, is you have content-based assessments. When you move away and you go more towards a interim assessment, that's more high-stakes testing, that's more cumulative results, that it's not a snapshot of the most recent data that was covered, or I should say content that was covered. So it's 100% best practices to use the CBA. Anything else is adding assessments, in my opinion, including the interim. But that's for another day. But we're going to have those, and that average makes sense because that does cover the span of the curriculum. So those are all, and that's we already put them in Excel. That's not a problem.
I think we didn't have like previous years as well. We just knew like this snapshot, they did this, and then the next one, they didn't do as good, but then the principal would say, but this test was actually like covered like a lot harder material or something, so we're just kind of like, okay, you know, but now that we have a year of them doing this, now we can say, okay, this May CBA, that's the harder one, what did they do last May? And see progress that way too.
As well.
Yeah, from year to year, instead of.
It'd be different students taking that CBA.
Right, it would be different, but you can see how your program is doing.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, program.
right. You're not seeing how that one particular student is growing or how that, but you're seeing, hey, we're making growth, we're doing good things, they're learning.
It's the curriculum mapping work.
Yeah, I think it needs to be both. I think we need to measure, is the program getting better, and we need to measure, are the students learning that year? And the only way to show that is to show the average of what they've learned over the year, instead of just, what did they learn in May?
Yeah, I don't know.
That way shows, what did they learn in May, what the kids last year who took it learned in May, and did we get better at teaching that May thing?
Right,
And that's important, but then we also gotta watch it.
but the way you're saying it is, I can do really good in January and make 100 in January, and then in May I make a 25. And then we average it, and then you're like, okay, well, that's 50 or whatever, so they're at 50, but really like, we did really good at one point, and then we did horrible over here, but we're not gonna see that if we average it.
Well, no, but we're gonna see that they've learned this, but then you add more CDAs in, there's like 8 of them or something.
So I think the only thing to share, just to add specifically for goal 5, which we added this year for English, I already did that in some instances for you, because there were times that we did reading, times that we did writing, then we averaged it together and put it in. So I think totally appropriate when we have an additional assessment, but the way that we have it sequenced for next year, we have a November assessment, which will really be first and second 6 weeks. And then the next time that we report in January, the only assessment we'll have is the benchmark, that is the full cumulative semester exam.
Yeah.
So at that point, you would only want that number, you wouldn't really want me to re-average the number that came
Because that's
from.
cumulative, that's why I said it.
Right.
Cumulative, we're already showing that, it's already built in.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it does make sense. We have it in different conversations in our PLCs because, you know, we're talking about what we do to fix some of those things along the way. So with the unit that's harder, we're going to talk about what we do, and we want to have it at that level. But for what you're talking about, I think totally appropriate to share that cumulative result, so we see how we're on track for getting to the end result.
Right. Well, in the CBA, the intent in place, this is my interpretation, is it is information that has been taught, and they're then being tested over that information. So if they're making a 25 on a CBA, then the fire alarm better be going off. Because if you have a class that's making all 25s, then we have serious issues going on that we need to get to the bottom of it. They should be making higher because they just learned that material within that 2-week, 3-week, whatever week period it is for that. So,
And it designs your intervention in the moment.
yes.
How'd it go this year? The intervention starts that moment. You remember fourth grade turned into a shining star as far as growth goes. They outpace everybody in growth. And so it's that real-time intervention. Like you said, Joe, right? We just got the data off this unit. It didn't go well. Part of the lesson cycle, reteach.
Right.
Spiral. And so absolutely.
And I understand what James is saying is it to show the growth over the year. A CBA is not showing growth to get to the 94% or whatever the goal is. I'm just throwing out a number. But if we're looking at a CBA each time trying to get to this end goal that's going to have all of this stuff on it, it's not really indicative of the stair step up to get to this 94 when we started at 42. So how do we see that line drawn? Is that correct, James?
I think everybody's summarized it a little differently. I think everybody.
And of course, our final review of data is going to be STAR results.
Yeah.
Then you're comparing your results to your goal, right, goal progress. We're using the goal progress measure to get bigger, faster, and stronger.
Yes.
And that's what that's about. So yeah, we can definitely try. Those are really good points in there. And I'm just happy to hear that you guys are asking these questions and we have these concerns. That's spot on. So what you should be doing. So when we look at the monitoring calendar, go over here, I wanted to point your attention to something. Let's see, maybe it's, oh, here it is. In goals 1 and 2, we added a little, or maybe it's just 2, 1 and 2, we've added a little something in May. That is to kind of give you a view of how the pre-K is going. Dr. Mack, did you want to talk about that just a minute?
I'll turn it over to Lisa to talk a little bit about what we're doing with pre-K and then I'll dovetail off that, but I know she's got a lot. There's some recent things, but there's some things she's been doing for a while yet in relation to preparing for kinder readiness for pre-K.
So one thing that we looked at for pre-K is not part of this model, but in order to recognize the efforts of pre-K, because it is such an important piece, is we do a test called PPBT, which we're not reporting on, but we also do CLI. And that is a norm test, like in-class is for kindergarten. It is the equivalent of that. It does include a social, emotional, and health and wellness component that is required by the state for pre-K. But we do administer that at the same intervals that we do in class. So whenever our kinder students are testing, our pre-K students are also testing. They have a little more testing that they do because we do the oral language test to monitor just how they are growing and progressing. But we wanted to include that to get another data set in there. But also that is how we're going to be looking at our kinder readiness. So as we look at kinder readiness, we pull it off at the beginning of the year test for kindergarten, but we also want to be able to compare what we're doing at the end of the year with pre-K and how does that correlate. CLI and in-class are not a direct correlation, but what we are looking at are ways that we can use the in-class to basically get a pre-assessment of our pre-K at the end of the year when they're still strong. We know their summer slide. The time that we're off for summer, the kids lose a lot. They lose it behaviorally, they lose it academically, they lose it socially, emotionally. So when they come back to us in August, we have definitely hit the reset button, but we really want to see kind of where they are when they leave us, and then where they come in to see how well we're doing as a campus at preparing them, what our slide looks like as far as our backside for summer, and then where we can fill in those gaps as well. So we do have we have a lot of things going on, and I don't want to share them right now because I don't want to let the goose out of the bag, but we have a lot of exciting things that are coming to Cherry and to Bay City ISD with the pre-K programming, and I do anticipate that we're going to see a lot. Dr. Mack, I don't really know. It's hard to say without saying. I think we're going to see a lot of exciting changes coming. What all?
The community partnership piece is on the agenda, and we have been talking about it quite a bit. And so I have shared with the board the MOUs with the two, so they are well versed on.
Okay, so we got those
Yes.
two that we've been talking with. There is another that has come to town that is going to be ready, in a few months that I visited with. But even aside from the ones that we're looking at partnering with, we are actually Kaylee Essenbaum, my instructional coach, and I have been out to a number of the daycares to talk with them about partnering with them on an unofficial level, but so that we can get these kids ready for us. So we are going to be working with the partnered ones to administer CLI to see how their kids are doing, and how they compare. They do run quality pre-K programming for 3-year-olds as well as 4-year-olds there. We start at 4-year-old. So it will be interesting to see what's going on within their own daycare set, their pre-K programming there, and compare that to what's coming to us straight out of the box, just straight from the community. But in addition to that, we want to encourage the other daycares that do have 3- and 4-year-olds to have a more academic setting so that they can help us prepare. If it's nothing more than just working on oral language development or things like that, we just want to really help strengthen that so that our kinder readiness is stronger. And we do anticipate we're going to be able to reflect that through the COI, little pre-K points that we have stuck in there.
Very, very exciting times, and I would just sum it up as definitely a community ownership of early childhood literacy is what we're looking to develop, and I think it's going to be special, and if all the stars line up and we move forward, they're very excited. They're already asking us questions like, how do we promote this? And so, Bridget, you got some phone calls coming up, all the stars line up, very excited, and so thank you for mentioning it. But yes, that information has been shared with the board in detail, and so we're excited about the possibility.
I can't wait till we bust it up and we tell everybody about it. It's really exciting.
It is tremendously exciting, because I don't know, just from my opinion, working with Bay City over the last few years, to me, that's a big frontier that needs to be pushed into, helping kids get school ready before they show up at your door. You got some amazing things going on in your schools, and the trajectory they're on from the time they step into your school until they graduate is incredible. So anything we can do to help them get ready to get there is going to be a tremendous benefit. So when we go and we look at the monitoring calendar, it's a little different this year, but you can see most months we're going to be looking at 2 goals. We've staged the board evaluations to coordinate with things well, so that we meet all of the priorities in the integrity instrument. So we'll go into it in more detail next month, but I just wanted to kind of give you a scouting report on it at this point, so you can kind of see it.
Is there any other questions? Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel like that parent who's always bragging about their kids when I go other places and I think about Bay City, and I have to kind of be careful. Brag about y'all too much. But I really appreciate the comments, the questions, awesome questions. Really helping us to direct our attention to what we use. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Do we go over community engagement opportunities?
We did not, but if there are some, we could put them in the monitoring calendar.
I'm on the way to Business Leaders Summit, so I don't know if we get any feedback on that. I had to leave early. You have to go.
Yes,
Later.
and I believe, members of Bridget 3 were there. I think you're aware of the LSG Community and Business Leader Summit that we have. And also this year, we may have mentioned that we have some campus spotlight days that are already scheduled beginning in September. And we're going to hit all the campuses. We'll do a good job with our LSG goals and allow them, our stakeholders, our families, to see what's going on, and I think it's going to be special.
Yeah, I want to just say that try not to make it too big of a heavy lift for yourself. Just remember, you're just talking about the vision and the goals. There's 5 goals that you have, and invite them to come to meetings and see what's going on. It is really, it's really remarkable. So I think if you just keep it short, keep it focused on that, and you'll be able to do it more often. It'll be effective. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks. Is there a motion to be made for LSG?
I'll make a motion to approve LSG.
Our second motion. All right, there's a first and a second. Any other further comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, moving on to reports. Purdue Brandon is our first report. Good evening, ma'am. How are you this evening?
Doing very well.
It's good to see you back.
Great to be here. Yes, thanks for coming. I appreciate you having me here. It's always a pleasure.
I'll talk to you all about taxes.
Yeah. Everybody's favorite topic, as you can see, they all love.
They left when
I think that hurt. So he's still taking that to heart. No, me.
You can share the plate. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm used to it. Typically what happens. Anyhow, Leslie Scotty here from Purdue Brandon Gilbert Collins and Bob. We do the delinquent tax collection for the district. You should have in your packet a delinquent tax collection report for the school. And before I get started, I always like to preface that the tax office is doing a great job. I am not bringing doom and gloom. I have a graphic at the end of the report that illustrates that the tax office collected over 98% of the district's taxes for the 2023 tax year before turnover to me. So I'm getting less than 2% of the full tax levy for the district. So that's good news. Yes, absolutely. So this report just represents delinquent onlys, and it's a culmination of all of the delinquent tax years that are still collectible. And so by way of reminder, our services are at no charge to the district because you contracted a delinquent tax firm for your tax collection. We get paid what is called a collection penalty. That fee is passed on to the taxpayer. So taxes typically go delinquent in February. The taxpayer usually gets a delinquent notice from the tax office. Then come May, they get what's called a 3307 notice. This 3307 notice is a statutory notice, and it serves due process to the taxpayer and then notifies them in May that if the taxes are still delinquent on July 1, it'll be turned over to a law firm and this collection penalty will attach. The collection penalty becomes part of the tax penalty and interest, and it's from collection of that penalty or the taxes that we get paid. So it's a very incentivizing process for my firm to get out there and do the work for the district. So I like to practice the meetings with that, so. All right. Without further ado, first up in the packet, you have the account breakdown chart. So this gives me a snapshot of the entire delinquent tax roll for the district, and I sabotage myself. I usually do not print these front and back. I'm spicing it up for myself tonight. So it lets me know where all the accounts are and represented in this pie chart. So it tells me what's most readily collectible, what I need to work on, what I can't work on. So you'll notice the largest section is at 36%, and that's the litigation section. So that's our accounts where we have tried to collect the accounts over the phone. We try to reach out to the taxpayer at least 3 times, get them on the phone, let them know the situation, give them an opportunity to get into a payment agreement, tell them about it. If they have a commitment to pay, I can pay by September 15th, and then we put a note on the account and we move on and check on the account sometime after September 15th to make sure they did it. So this is what happens after we make those attempts to reach out to the taxpayer. They've received a letter, they've received 3 phone calls if we can find them. We've done the title research, if it's real property, if they have a lien holder on the property, we've reached out to their lien holder, either via phone or send them a lien holder letter, giving them an opportunity to pay before the litigation. So this encompasses, a section encompasses all things in litigation from suit just filed or ready to foreclose or foreclosure sale. Next up is the action pending section. That's mostly 2023 delinquencies that were just turned over to us on July 1. So they're getting the letter right about now. They're getting the phone calls. We're trying to bring their attention to the situation so that they can tell us when they're going to pay, get on a payment agreement, etc. Next largest section is the deferral section. These are taxpayers who are 65 or older who elected to defer payment of their delinquent taxes. They're only eligible to do that on their residence homestead. So they must have that election on the property with the county appraisal district, and then they file the deferral affidavit with the appraisal district as well. They have to show their entitlement. And once that status is on the account, we suppress them. They do not get the letters. They do not get the collection penalty. So that is also suppressed. And the interest is calculated differently. For example, most accounts get 12% per year statutory interest. The deferred accounts only get 5% per year. They get no penalties, no collection penalty. And that deferral remains on the account as long as they use that property as their residence homestead. Next up is the partial pay section at 8%. These are taxpayers who we've reached out, they've entered into a payment agreement, we've entered that agreement on our system, and we monitor those agreements. So that I have for you the dollar range chart. Basically just another collection tool to help me direct my staff, to help me know what's going on my tax roll. For example, what I may refer to as an account may be a taxpayer that owns multiple accounts. We group all those together in our system. We work the roll top down to be as effective as possible for the district and collect those higher dollar accounts first. In the 10,000 up section, I did want you to know that the top two accounts are a conglomeration of multiple accounts. One of those taxpayers has a commitment to pay by September 15th. We've already reached out to them. They're selling property and they are committed to pay that by the 15th of September. And another one has already set up an informal agreement with the tax office and is making substantial monthly payments. The rest of the accounts in that 10,000 and up are accounts with deferrals or litigation. There's one taxpayer that has a few accounts tied up in bankruptcy that we also file claims to the district, and we monitor those as well. I'll post things up with those. Yes, third chart I have is the tax year chart. I noticed the largest percent of the 2023 taxes at 39%. So after the 2023 tax year, what was just turned over to us, the percentages dropped pretty drastically. 16 and prior, that's going to be several years lumped together. So really not any problem with any one of those tax years. We just put them all together. Some of those older tax years are still around because of tax deferrals and things like that. After that, I have historical collection data. Are some bar charts that show tax collections from 18 through 2022. You'll notice for 2018, we're over 87% collected, and I'll kind of skip towards the end, so don't put anybody to sleep. And for 2021, we're at over 75% collected for that tax year. In 2022, we're right at 61% collected. And last but not least, the chart I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, which shows what was turned over to us for the 2023 taxes last month. And that's the chart that illustrates that the tax office collected over 98% before turnover, and we're getting less than 2% of the year's delinquencies. So we are continuing to place tax foreclosure signs on properties that are struck off to the district. Properties are struck off to the district when we go through the litigation. And nobody bids on it at the tax sale. We're still placing signs on those properties to bring any interested buyers' attention to call us. They can place a sealed bid, and many of you will be familiar with those that we brought before the board to approve. We have, I think, about 5 properties in the inventory for BCISD, 3 of which have interested people and they're looking to submit a sealed bid. And so we are, oh, and there's one that was brought to my attention recently. It's a 7-acre tract. It has some kind of well on it, and we recently talked to there was a mineral producer, mineral operator sign on the property, and we've recently discussed it with them, and they have offered to cap that well in the next 6 months. And I know that has deferred some tax sale buyers. And I think it's brought to my attention because the ISD or the city may be moved. Right. So it's best when we do have offers to get those back on the tax rolls so that we put them in the hands of the taxpayer who will maintain them and of course pay the taxes going forward. We have tax dockets monthly, and we're continuing to have about 4 tax sales per year. Our last one was in July, and we're setting up one for October. And if you're interested in looking at any of what's in the resale inventory, you can check out our website. We also post tax sale notices, and you can sign up for email notifications, and that's pdfcm.com. It's on the front of your report. Great. Are there any questions?
The deferrals, they can defer forever, and then the heirs owe the taxes?
That is correct. That is sometimes a situation. Often that happens, and the heirs have 181 days from the point in time where the appraisal district removes the deferral from the account to pay at the current rate. Otherwise, penalty and interest do go back onto the account should the heirs not pay within that 6-month period after the appraisal district removes that deferred status.
And it's just the 1-year taxes that they're deferring, or can they then just rack up every single year and just collectively defer forever?
Correct, as long as they're using the property as their residence homestead.
So the taxes could be worth as much or more as the property when they pass away.
Absolutely correct. And I think the legislative intent was a good intent to protect the property owners that were on fixed income or unable to work, unable to keep up with the property taxes. And don't get me wrong, that's not always the case. Sometimes the property sold, taxes are settled by the title company when the title changes hands. But that does happen, that sometimes the property is upside down, because it's had tax deferral for years.
Other questions?
And they can pay too. I always like to preface with that. If they do choose to pay during that pendency of that deferral, they are allowed to make partial payments or pay it in full. It doesn't always mean that they're not paid.
Right.
It just means we force them to.
I have a question, just to make a connection between several things. We're really trying to keep our eye on the ball, state and local values, and staying within that range. And just if you could speak to, and if not, you can send it to me and I can put it in a board newsletter, but just talking about the work that you all do with the freeze correction filings, the taxable value audit. Are those things related to state and local values at all, or is that something completely separate?
I would probably defer to our folks that do that on a regular basis, that do the audit appeal, because I would hate to tell you the wrong thing.
And I do have a contact, so that's what I was just
Probably
looking at it in a
Lacey
moment.
Harris or Carlos
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
Yes,
Lacey
they
has
can
been-
set you completely straight. Don't let me garble the message on that.
And I will share, Lacey did share already on the taxable value audit findings, that it's an ongoing process to make sure that we're receiving all the funds that we should be receiving. And we have received, and I will send in a board newsletter, the recovery of those funds, which has been ongoing. So, and we have one going on right now, I'll say it's 2022 or 21? 2020? Okay, 2020, yes, 2020 is up, so they're doing that in the background, thank you, Vince. They're doing that in the background, and we have recovered funds, I'll send that to you as well. And then I will check in with Lacey as well. We really, really, really want every resource we can to get in front of state and local values, because that is something that you can lose. You know, I've seen small schools lose, $1.2 million, and they're a tiny little bitty school. And so we're within property values, but we're leveraging, just so the board knows in that vein, we're leveraging our financial advisor, Mo Casey works with us, and they gave us the name of the study that the comptroller uses. And so we may approach you in the future to say, we want that report ourselves to compare that so that we don't get in a bind. And it is very nebulous. And you're talking about two different agencies, and all of a sudden you find out that your taxable values, local and state, aren't aligned, and you lose the difference. The state essentially says, we're not going to pay you the difference if you don't meet that. And so a lot of great work is behind the scenes. I know that Rick and Vince have been visiting offices here in town to make sure we're all on the same page. And I appreciate y'all's work on that. I know I bring it up constantly, but the more data points we can get to keep our eye on that is better. So thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions?
I don't think so. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I appreciate your time.
Yes, ma'am. Be careful driving. All right, since that was a report, there's nothing that is needed. Moving on to items of business. Discuss and consider and take possible action to approve requests for proposals for speech language pathologist services, approving proposal criteria and delegating authority to the superintendent.
So, yes, ma'am, we brought that to the board at the last board meeting. We talked about how difficult it is to find certain positions to provide those mandated special needs services. We did, Dr. Pronto, please correct me, we did expand that to be, we were talking about speech therapy at the time, and we've expanded that because, as you know, it's all areas of special education. So that has been modified prior to our last discussion, but of course shared in advance, that it's a broader RFP, so we don't have to keep coming back to you, whether it's LSSP or speech therapy. Is that accurate, or
Yes, sir.
Dr. Brunson?
Yes, sir.
And so I think that leverages us better to not have to come back using the same criteria. Other districts in the state are using the same criteria.
there any questions about that proposal? All right, is there a motion to be made?
I will make a motion to approve request for proposal for speech language pathologist services, approving the proposal criteria and delegating authority to the superintendent.
All right, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second to his motion?
Second.
All right, we have a first.
Can I clarify there? I'll make sure, because I heard the speech piece, but I want to make sure I got it right. Discuss and consider possible action to approve request for proposal for special education staffing services.
It says.
So it's across the board. It doesn't include the speech and anything else.
Special education.
Yes, sir.
I would like to amend my motion. To approve request for proposals for special education services, approving proposal criteria and delegating authority to the superintendent.
There is a motion on the table. Is there a second to the amended motion? All right, we have a first and second. Any further questions? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, item B, we are going to have a public hearing for our.
We're setting the date.
Correct.
We're setting,
We're
setting the date for it.
correct. We're proposing to adopt the tax rate.
Set date for a public hearing. Yes, sorry.
So, all right, so behind you guys is what we're looking to propose. This is my first year, my first go ahead, so it's kind of a little nervous, but we're all good here. I had the help of Mr. Johnson over there, as well as we went over to the tax assessor collector's office, Ms. Becky Cook, and after looking at everything that we do with the summary of finance at Region 3, so a workshop that we go to called pulling it all together, where we basically run one using no more template, taking a lot of factors into account, but we need certified values from the county appraisal district in order to make that happen. So a lot of work went into this. But what we're proposing for the new revenue tax rate is $1 and 1.019775 cents, and the maintenance and operations tax rate 1.66690. So the voter approval rate is 1.0138. Certified taxable value for M&O is at 1.8 million, you see there, INS 2.1. How we got that was this template that we do here is the 2024 tax rate calculation worksheet, specifically for school districts like ours that have Chapter 315 agreements. This is what we go over with Ms. Cook over there in her office. Lines, a lot of stuff, but it's also pulled from what we do there. We should kind of share data and work on it together. That's what ultimately gets us here for the notice of public needs to discuss the budget and proposed tax rate. Next month, this will be shared with the newspaper here in the next couple of days after we complete this process here. And I know the first thing there was going to say is, okay, if last year, if last year you're saying last year's rate was 68.5 cents and we're dropping down to 66, 69 cents for the proposed tax rate right now, why are my taxes going down? Well, goes back to the preceding year, our values have gone up. So values of property taxes went up. This is touching on what Dr. McKay was just talking about a minute ago, making sure that we're staying in line with state values as well. A lot of stuff that we discussed during the budget process in May and during some of the budget workshops as well. Just jumping from 2.6 to 2.8. So yes, you're going to lower the rate that we compressed, but the values that are being applied are going down. Let's see here, total appraised value of the property preceding year was 82.2 million, and then current tax year is 123,552,495. Pulling that all together, seeing how it applies. Last year we had a rate of 1.04446. Rates maintained the same level of revenue as 1.029, and we brought that down to 1.01 based on calculations that Ms. Cook has given us. And then the average market value of residences jumped up from last year's of 156,000, 200,000, and then looking at an overall decrease in taxes. So once again, the rate decreased, but because the values are going up, the state's kind of just doing what they can in that sense, where they're compressing it makes it look like, okay, assuming my taxes, well, actually, no, we're going to rate. There's just some things that, certain variables that are outside of our control in terms of the values, but, that's just kind of what I wanted to share with you guys. But this will be the rate that we're actually looking to propose. That we're looking to propose and adopt next month during this, September board meeting. Any questions?
This rate didn't factor into the homestead increase, because that happened last year, right?
No, the homestead exemption, the
Yeah.
voter approved 100,000. Yes, sir.
But we folded that in last year.
We folded that in last year, but if Rick can correct me if I'm wrong, that still applies for the next couple of years, correct?
Yes. No, we're going forward.
Correct.
What James is saying is correct.
Okay.
Also wanted to mention, before we got into the compression, I would refer to it as constant compression and the lowering of this, I'll just speak to M&O, maintenance and operations. We were steady around year 16 through 19, which was the last year of normalcy before COVID, and we were sitting there at about $1.15 M&O. And so it's gone from $1.15 to $1.05, 94 cents, 94 cents again, 87 cents, 68, and now 66. And so going back to pre-COVID, we were at $1.15. I think that is a substantial reduction in the tax rate, and something that we look forward to communicating to our stakeholders moving forward.
So that tax, telling me that, some kind of crazy.
And
Look at the entities that aren't lowering their tax rate as your values go up. Yeah. That's where the model for dollars are coming from.
Right, it also goes to what Dr. Mack was saying, if our rates aren't where they're supposed to be, then the state will come back and take that money back, and I think we may have been in that situation where they had to raise the appraisal value to get up to where the state was, or the state was gonna come in and take that.
Yeah, they're compressing our rate at the state level, but they're also
And west.
telling the appraisers to raise values.
That makes sense. So that's what he was referring to. Okay, any other questions? All right, is there a motion to be made to so?
When was the public hearing?
It's
We're
next.
setting the date, this next board meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, it's next. What is so do we need to say the actual date?
It's on the notice. There's
Okay.
September 17th.
September 7th. 17th.
At the next board.
Yeah. So is there a motion to be made?
I will make a motion to approve the proposed tax rate and set the date for public hearing September 17th as presented in the notice for approval of the final rate at that time.
Is there a second to the motion? All right, there's a first and a second. Any further questions? All right, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. All right, on to item C. Discuss, consider, and take possible action to approve amendments to the BCISD Memorial Stadium Partnership sponsored packages.
So we're in our final year of the initial stadium agreements for our sponsorships on the big screen, if you will. We have visited with some of our stakeholders, and we have also studied policy from other districts, and we are proposing a reduction today. And if you'll look with me at the attachment, I've got it better at this point than I did earlier. One second. So essentially, it's going from the 12,000 feet listed there in the information presented, from 12 to 10,000, and then the tickets that come with the sponsorship going from 2 to 4 tickets. And again, we looked at area policy, and the 10,000 was very consistent with this type. We also, and thank you, Bridget, for visiting with some of our stakeholders as well to gather data before we make this recommendation. I think it's good for everyone. Again, we're in our final year, so this will give us this year to communicate things and have everything lined out with a high amount of accountability, how payment is made, tracking the payment, adherence to policy, and being on the same page. So we want to bring this to you as soon as possible so we can start for the next cycle and getting out there and seeing if we have some sponsors that might be interested. Any questions I can answer?
I mean, we have the potential to have 5. Do we currently have 5?
5
total.
Yes, we have room for more sponsors, yes.
Do we have 5 now? What do you got now? 2. Okay. So going down, I guess the idea is you get more, actually get more.
Yes, and we do have some, and I gotta say this, we are so grateful for our business partners. We do have some interest going towards that 5.
Yeah.
And we will revisit with them and let them know that we have, if the board so chooses, if those new rates are put into place, we will let them know, because we did have additional folks that said they were interested, but, moving for the next year.
Are there any further questions in regards to what is being presented?
I would point to one thing and explain why. You'll notice in there that the number of parking passes doesn't change. If you've been back there where there's parking is, and if it rains, we're in big trouble, and it's already very, very crowded back there, and so it's just very crowded and presents a number of challenges with a number of vehicles back there. So I wanted to point that out, that is a logistical recommendation, and yes, I'm glad to entertain any other questions on that.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Mack? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to be made?
Motion to approve amendments to the BCISD Memorial Stadium Partnership Sponsor Packages for the 2025-26.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second to the motion? We have a first and a second. Are there any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, consent agenda. Is there a motion or is there anything that is wanting to be, that anyone wants to take off the consent agenda? All right, is there a motion to be made?
We'll make a motion to approve it.
Is there a second to the motion? All right, there's a second to the motion. Are there any questions, comments? I do have one just comment that I think needs some attention for item C, which is the second reading of the exhibit to policy GKD local. I did speak with Dr. Mack, and I know that a couple board members have mentioned it, and there's some conversation that will go around the fees portion to use for ongoing usage. So for those that are trying to use the facility for any type of practice weekly or whatever that may be. So those are conversations that will happen, but that is a regulation that does not need board approval. So that can change in an instant. But I wanted to let y'all know that those conversations are happening. And obviously we'll be informed to what that is, but there's no vote needed for us to be involved in that. So wanted to let y'all know before we do that second reading. All right, any other questions, comments? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, we will move into executive session. We'll convene into closed session for personal matters necessary to be taken into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, resignation, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including contract recommendations for campus and district level administrators and teachers. We will convene into closed session at 7:40. and consider approval of hiring contractual personnel. Is there a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion to hire contractual personnel as presented in work.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second it.
Okay, there's a second. Is there any conversation, questions?
Pizza.
All in favor, say aye.
With extra pepperoni.
Motion passes
Fix the pizza.
6-0.
Fix the pizza.
Congratulations. Thank you. We're excited for you. All right, any other things before we go into adjourn?
It did not take us an hour and a half to come to this conclusion.
That's all I'm gonna make you sweat.
I'm
sorry.
But the pizza was a hot topic.
All right,
That's all.
moving on to adjournment, is there a motion to be made? Is there a second to the motion? Okay, is there any further conversation? Laura Beth and Trent in a second.
Okay.
All right, we will adjourn this meeting at 9 p.m.